Hey everybody, I'm Zach.
And I'm Jesse.
And you're watching Tesla Time News.
Episode 258.
On Now You Know.
We are brought to you, as always, by our amazing Patreon patrons. Help to support creating independent news every week by heading over to patreon.com/nowyouknow, and there you'll find some awesome perks. We just had a great live stream with our friends over on Patreon. We're going to have another one next month. Be sure to join us for that. But yeah, we've got Patreon bonus stories. You can join us on the polls. You can get your name shouted out at the end of the show. So be sure to join us over on Patreon.
And we're brought to you by BigBattery.com. No matter what you need to power, Big Battery can provide you with the latest battery tech at the best price per kilowatt hour, guaranteed. Their batteries are easily installed, require zero maintenance, and they're made right here in the U.S. Pick up yours today at BigBattery.com and use code NOWYOUKNOW for 5% off at checkout.
Today's show is sponsored by our friends at Omaze.
How'd you like to enter for your chance to win a Tesla Model S Plaid?
Yeah, we're talking the very latest and greatest from Tesla. The Model S Plaid is absolutely incredible. 1,020 horsepower, nearly a 400-mile range.
And 0 to 60 in under 2 seconds and a top speed of 200 miles an hour.
And just look at this beauty. Pearl white exterior, black interior with wood trim, and a 22-speaker 960-watt sound system. Go to amaze.com/NYK and enter for your chance to win.
And when you enter for your chance to win the Plaid Model S, you are supporting a great cause. Reverb partners with musicians, festivals, and venues to green their concerts, and they engage fans face-to-face to take environmental and social action.
So far, Reverb's work has eliminated more than 3 million single-use plastic water bottles at concerts, supported 2,000 family farmers, and eliminated 180,000 tons of CO2 through their Music Climate Revolution campaign.
And I want to take a second and congratulate some of Omaze's recent winners.
Congratulations to Gail C. from San Francisco, who won the custom Tesla Model S and $20,000.
And congratulations to Give Power and 501c3, who were granted $446,000 from funds raised by the generous support of donors just like yourself in the Omaze community.
So to potentially win this Tesla Model S Plaid and support Reverb in their awesome work, go to omaze.com/NYK.
Enter today. Someone is going to win this prize. It could be you. So as we know, the U.S. has had a tax credit which rewards buyers of electric vehicles with tax credits up to $7,500. The credit extended to the first 200,000 vehicles a manufacturer produced and then steadily reduced the amount quarter by quarter until there was no tax credit for that manufacturer. This has left GM and Tesla out of a credit for over a year, with Nissan and Toyota slowly creeping up to the limit. The credit would be adjusted lower depending on the price of the car and your income level.
There was talk this year of removing that limit and giving the credit back to Tesla and GM, in addition to increasing the credit to $12,500 if the EV was made in the U.S. by union workers.
However, an amendment passed by the U.S. Senate on Tuesday gutted this bill, lowering the price of qualifying cars to $40,000 and limiting the bar for qualifying for the tax credit to Americans earning $100,000 or less per year.
Senator Deb Fischer of Nebraska said, "Everyday Americans are living paycheck to paycheck because of the sharp rise in costs due to Bidenflation. We shouldn't be subsidizing luxury vehicles for the rich using money from hardworking taxpayers."
So the Republican-supported amendment passed 51 to 48 when 3 Democratic senators broke ranks.
Now, this amendment has rendered this bill useless, in my opinion. It's exactly what the oil industry wants. By denying their existence and producing crap, Big Auto, and by extension, Big Oil, allowed Tesla to break into the outer bailey of their castle. Tesla did this by outperforming everything that Big Auto made. This has forced them to regroup in their inner battlements with their slimy lobbyists to adopt a new strategy. One where they'll make uncompelling vehicles with acceptable ranges to once again placate the environmentalists who will put up with their lackluster charging infrastructure and low performance for cheap, unexciting cars, while, at the same time, keeping most car buyers completely disinterested. The Model 3 absolutely proved that most people would pay more to own a car that they loved, and that's what this bill is trying to stop. Under the guise of fighting for the little guy, Big Auto is trying, once again, to slow down the adoption of EVs, and you should not stand for it.
Because what happens years after someone rich buys an EV? They sell it on the used market.
Exactly. The average price for a new car in the United States is $41,000. $41,000. And also, people who earn over $100,000 a year are always the majority of people buying new cars for that very reason. So the argument used to get this amendment passed was completely flawed because it was based on those arguments. Yet it sounds very, very good.
Right. It sounds like it's for the everyman, and we're just stopping these rich people from getting a break.
And it's like rich people are, by and large, the only people buying new cars. I mean, for most of my life and for most of your life, we didn't buy any new cars. I think Tesla was the only new cars that we ever bought.
Yep.
And that's just because you could really only get a Tesla if you bought one new.
Right.
I had always bought used cars, and I think most people buy used cars. So when you hear about like people spending $40,000 on a car, you're going like, are these people super rich? Yes, they are. However, the whole point of this legislation is to incentivize EV sales and EV growth.
Right.
What this is essentially doing is gutting that bill. There's not that many EVs that will sell for under $40,000. You have the Model 3 Standard Range Plus, which is a completely decent vehicle, so that's good. There's a couple other EVs that you can buy, but most new EVs coming out are going to be well over $40,000.
And what's interesting to me is I think Big Auto was behind this. I think that they lobbied for this, and they knew it was coming. And I think they knew it was going to hurt them, but it was also going to hurt Tesla more. And they're like, hey, as long as it hurts Tesla more, we're for it.
Right. I think, though, that their plan has a good chance of backfiring on Big Auto and Big Oil because Tesla has been living without tax incentives for over a year.
Yeah.
Almost a year and a half.
And demand hasn't dropped.
It has not dropped. And Tesla has had their best quarters when there has been no tax credit.
Right.
That's pretty unbelievable. So I think that this is going to absolutely backfire on manufacturers of other, soon to be EVs, because this is going to cut them down at the knees. Instead of, being able to sell the e-tron and the I-Pace and, the Lyriq and other cars like that, they're not going to be able to get the tax credit on them, and they're not going to be able to sell them in vast numbers, which might have been their plan, but I think it's a stupid plan.
But I think it's important to remember the battle's not over. This was the Senate. It still has to go on to the House. And so there's still a chance that we could reconcile this. So this is the time that if you're going to call your representatives, it could make a big difference. So get on the phone and let them know how you feel.
And just see if you can have a meeting with them. See if you can, just Skype with them and just kind of talk through what it means and how the senator from Nebraska is not fooling you.
Right. All right. So Tesla just came out with their annual impact report for 2020.
It's almost 100 pages long, so we don't expect you to read it, although I would recommend perusing it because it's filled with lots of goodies. And we thought we'd share a few of the bits that stand out to us.
Yeah. First up is this little chart here, which should put to rest that uncle of yours who is always saying, electric vehicles are worse for the environment than gas vehicles. I read it somewhere.
Well, they're not, and here's proof. This chart shows the average life cycle emissions in the U.S. This is grams of CO2 per mile driven. It's way lower for a Model 3, even when you factor in manufacturing. It's less than 200 grams of CO2 per mile versus over 400 for an ICE vehicle. In many cases, the Model 3 emits 4 times less CO2 than an ICE car.
So yes, while currently making a Model 3 produces a bit more CO2 than making an ICE vehicle, after driving that Model 3 for just 5,340 miles, they'll be even. And then every mile after that, the Model 3 is cleaner.
And if we shift to a greener electricity grid like New York State, then EVs are super clean.
Oh, wait, what's that? You're saying, yeah, that's the US, but what about Europe?
Very similar. EVs are awesome and just get awesomer as the grid gets cleaner. That's the average EU grid on the left and Austria's cleaner grid on the right.
Oh, but wait, I'm sorry. You said China. How does Model 3 stack up against ICE cars using China's much dirtier electrical grid?
As you can see on the left, the Model 3 is still cleaner in China than an ICE car, although not by much, as the average grid in China is pretty dirty. But go to a province like Sichuan province, and the Model 3 again emits far less than a comparable ICE vehicle when you factor everything in.
And we're going to put this on the Clips channel so that you can share this with people, because I think a lot of people are stuck in this world where they see on Facebook their friends saying, yeah, but EVs suck. They're so much dirtier than ICE vehicles. Now you get some charts to prove that they're wrong. And here's a little tidbit from page 23 of the report. It's not sexy. It's not high tech, but it's true. And the impacts are profound.
Pollution from burning fossil fuels leads to 8 million premature deaths globally each year. This is a major advantage of EVs that is often forgotten about, as overall EV debate tends to focus on greenhouse gases. EVs are not just about the future of our planet, but very much about addressing preventable deaths today.
So those are two pictures. They're actually the same place. That's the Northern Alps. And one of those pictures was taken on just a regular old day. And the other clean picture was taken during COVID. So this shows you that we got a problem. Problem is caused by traffic, and we can clean it up. And that's the thing. We don't talk about EVs much as the solution to this problem. But this problem, even if you're not a climate, like let's say you're a climate denier, you can't deny that you don't want to be breathing that crap into your lungs. Right. So here's a little tidbit from Tesla's 2020 impact report. This nugget says, with both the US and the EU having approved higher weight allowances for electric heavy-duty trucks, we expect the payload to be at least as high as it would be for a diesel truck. In the EU, electric semi-trucks are allowed to be 2 tons, or 4,400 pounds, heavier than diesel equivalents, and in the US, the allowance is 0.9 tons, or 2,000 pounds. Can you translate that for us?
Yeah. In both the EU and the US, regulators have already determined that electric semi-trucks can carry more load than their diesel counterparts, which means another advantage that electric semis will have over diesel. Not only cheaper per mile to operate, not only will they not have to worry about runaway truck ramps, now they'll be able to carry 1 to 2 tons more cargo.
And Tesla went on to say, when fully loaded, the Tesla Semi should be able to achieve over 500 miles of range, achieved through aerodynamics and highly efficient motors. This truck will be able to reach an efficiency of over 0.5 miles per kilowatt hour.
When first announced, Tesla said that the Semi would have less than 2 kilowatt hours per mile efficiency, which is over 0.5 miles per kilowatt hour, is definitely in line with that guidance. So this suggests a 1 megawatt hour battery if we're talking about a range of 500 miles.
And by the way, I was doing a little digging. Did you know that the highest like count on a Tesla Time News we've done is just over 20,000 likes? So I think we could beat that if everyone hit the like button right now.
Now, what will that do?
Well, it'll help us out a lot and make a big number. So be sure to check back in and see what we got it up to.
So as a part of Tesla's latest 2020 impact report, they published this chart showing battery degradation over 200,000 miles. As you can see, Tesla claims that their battery packs retain about 90% of range that they start with.
So keep in mind that the blue line there is the standard deviation. So some people have less degradation, some people experience more, but this is great data that shows how good EVs are at maintaining their range, even after what is typically the end of life for most cars. Tesla says Tesla's battery packs are designed to outlast the vehicle. We estimate that a vehicle gets scrapped after approximately 200,000 miles of usage in the US and roughly 150,000 miles in Europe.
Also interesting to note that the range drops fastest in the beginning and then levels off over time.
So another useful nugget of info that we learned from the Tesla 2020 impact report has to do with battery recycling.
You might hear, that same uncle or whatever going, well, then when the batteries are done being used, they're going to go straight to landfill. And it's going to be terrible. And they're going to put it in the garbage. Same uncle who probably throws lots of recyclables in the garbage. But Tesla says in the fourth quarter of 2020, Tesla successfully installed the first phase of our cell recycling facility at Gigafactory Nevada for in-house processing of both battery manufacturing scrap and end-of-life batteries.
Yeah, so Tesla says it can currently recover 92% of raw battery materials. And if you're like, well, they say they can, but did they? Well, in 2020, they claim to have recycled 1,300 tons of nickel, 400 tons of copper, and 80 tons of cobalt. And you might be saying, well, I don't know what that means. How many cars is that? We did a little math, and that's about 3,600 cars worth of cobalt. Not a meaningless number, especially since they just started.
And obviously, if you pay attention to what Elon says, first you figure out how to do something, then you scale it up. And if they can scale that up, they could be recycling battery packs, making new battery packs, not having to buy from mines. They could just be like, trade in your 17-year-old Tesla,
right,
and we will recycle the battery pack and make a new one, and it's a lot cheaper.
Here's a cool chart from the impact report. This is showing electric vehicles sold from 2017 to 2020. So obviously Tesla on the left there, you can see their latest year, almost 500,000 vehicles, very impressive. Let's just slide over to the right a little. VW, great. R&M, which is Renault, Nissan, Mitsubishi, Hyundai, okay, BYD, GM, kind of
leveled off.
Stellantis, if it weren't for this last year, that would be nothing. Daimler, same thing. BMW, Jaguar, almost non-existent. Toyota, just a blip. And Ford
looks like someone forgot to fill it in.
It does.
I mean, for all the talk about the Mach-E, holy smokes, does it look like nothing? I mean, if this were like, a city, this is like the farmland. There's nothing there.
Well, and this shows why GM and Ford don't want that EV tax credit. They're not making enough EVs to make it worth their while. In fact, in 2020, Tesla generated almost $1.6 billion in regulatory credits from the other OEMs. So thank you, OEMs, for helping us. Here's a cool chart. This is an all-in-one chart. It's the first 3 years of ownership of an EV in the UK. They took all this data, and it's really cool because it shows not only the reduced range of other EVs, see that all those dots on the left there, but also how you can drive further annually with a Tesla. So you see the vehicle range on the bottom, so that shows that Teslas, of course, have 300 to 400 miles of range. But then if you look on the left there, that shows you how many annual miles are driven, and you can see that when you have a low-range EV, well, you just can't physically drive it as much in a year as you can with a long-range EV.
Right. Another thing to point out is Supercharger network. I know that the Brits do pride themselves on having a decent non-Tesla charging network, but it still shows that you're going to drive a lot further if you're in a Tesla.
And then this is another one for your uncle in the corner who talks about car fires and says, well, I heard EVs catch on fire all the time. Well, here's a chart that shows you that Teslas have 11 times lower chance of vehicle fire than the average U.S. car. And it's pretty easy to read, too, for your uncle. It's very easy to read.
Graph.
And I just thought this was fun to look at. This is Tesla's global employees from 2010 to 2020. So you can see that they've got over 70,000 employees as of 2020. Pretty fast growth going on. And again, we're going to divide up all of these into little clips so that you can share them on the Clips channel. So head on over there if you want to share something so you don't have to share the whole long show. We make them nice and bite-sized. So normally we don't like to cover stories that aren't fairly conclusive. However, when the story involves a country of over 1 billion people,
we tend to cover it. Tesla and Volkswagen have been lobbying the government of India to lower import duties of EVs. Currently, the import duty for any car being imported to India is 60% for vehicles under $40,000 and a staggering 100% for more expensive vehicles.
I'm sorry, can we just stop for 1 second? Because my brain doesn't work well with numbers that big. So you're saying that you take the value of the vehicle, so a $60,000 vehicle.
Let's say there's a $50,000 Model Y.
Okay.
Right? Let's say that they wanted to import that to India.
Okay.
You would take the $50,000.
Then you add another $50,000 on top. That goes to the Indian government.
Yep. And then you sell the car for $100,000 to an Indian citizen.
Oh my gosh. So the Indian government wants to favor domestic production and is trying to pressure Tesla and others to make a production facility in India, to which Elon responded that Tesla would have to prove demand through imports before they would consider building a factory, and argues for lowering import duties to none.
Most recently, Volkswagen has joined Tesla in lobbying efforts for EV tariffs specifically. Gurpratap Parai, a managing director of Skoda Auto Volkswagen India, said the market for EVs has to be big enough for investments to come in, and for that, we shouldn't be placing barriers.
Of course, domestic car maker Tata is opposed to any cuts and is lobbying hard in the other direction. And that makes sense. They don't want any competition.
Nothing has come out of this so far, but we would be remiss if we didn't cover this developing story.
And I understand India's point here. Like, let's make a really high tariff that'll force makers to come in and actually make them here, which is what we want, right? You want the jobs to be in your country. Right. And I think Tesla wants that ultimately, right? I mean, they wanted to build a Chinese gigafactory because then you get local supplies, you get local workers, the costs come down. So I think everyone's all in favor of that. I think the biggest unknown question here is, would an electric car in these price ranges sell well in India? And I don't know that they would.
Yeah, I don't think that anyone has the answer because, let's face it, if they started selling Model 3s and Model Ys in India with a 100% tariff, that's not really that obvious in terms of what demand would be because you've essentially doubled the price of the car. And it's not like the car is now twice as good. It's going to be just as good as it would have been if you bought it somewhere else. It just now costs double.
Right. And you're now competing with the local producers who can make a good car for less. So you don't even know if it's not selling because they don't like your price or they don't like your car or just because you've got so much competition.
Right. So, I feel like if Tesla could just for a year get no import tariffs.
I think there's the answer. I think India should let them, give them like a year off, special 1 year discount. And then they get to come in, try it out, see what the sales are like with imported cars. And if they're good, that's probably going to give them all the incentive they need to build a factory.
Potentially. Or totally not. And it'd be, goodbye, India. We're never coming back.
Right.
Until they have a cheaper car, potentially.
Right.
I don't know. It would be interesting, but I think with a country of 1.3 billion people, it's that's a big question.
Well, and Model 2 is the big question for me. I think as soon as Tesla can get their Model 2 proven and get the price to where they want it, this would be the car for India. All right, so on Tesla's website, we see that Tesla has now pushed back the delivery of the Model 3 Standard Range Plus from November of this year to January of 2022.
The Standard Range Plus is, of course, Tesla's cheapest variant with a range of 263 miles and a starting cost of $39,900.
Now, we reported last week how Tesla was delaying the delivery of the Model S. This shows that Tesla has demand for both their high-end and low-end cars. But this also might be due to supply chain issues, namely automotive chips, as Elon called out Bosch and Renesas. Elon said, "As publicly disclosed, we are operating under extreme supply chain limitations regarding certain standard automotive chips. Most problematic by far are Renesas and Bosch." So he called them out.
And even the Model Y long range will take a while to be delivered, with estimates also now in January.
Yeah, so, I mean, I guess this does raise the question, is this because of insane amounts of demand or insane supply issues, or both?
Our patrons actually voted on this, so later in the show, if you stick around, you can see what they thought.
All right, so White Hat Hacker Green the Only tweeted out, "I am hearing without much fanfare, Tesla suddenly re-enabled supercharging capabilities in salvage Model 3 cars. Would be interesting to get some confirmations from a wider field if anybody has salvage Model 3s with disabled supercharging. Great news if true."
Casey Willie said, "It's confirmed for me. I have a previous salvage Model 3 that was disabled last October in the band waves. Here is proof."
Yeah, and even our buddy Steven from the Rich Rebuilds channel, you know, they built that off-road Model 3, and I guess as a funny joke, Steven drove it to a supercharger, plugged it in, and he said he was able to charge for a bit, and then the payment screen caused some kind of problem, and he couldn't quite fix it. He thinks it was just a bug, but he thinks that supercharging did work for a while, so he also kind of got independent confirmation, and that was definitely for a salvaged vehicle. And so this raises the question, is Tesla doing this because they're turning on their supercharging network to everybody, or are they doing this because of right to repair? The FTC has recently been talking to Tesla saying, look, you got to allow people to repair their cars just like any other. And so is this why they're turning it on?
It might be. Now, of course, the danger is if you let salvaged Teslas start charging at superchargers, that one of the salvaged Teslas might not have been put back together properly and might like catch on fire, which would not be a good news clip for Tesla, because it would be a Tesla on fire at a Tesla supercharger station, along with the damage that could be done to other cars or the supercharger station itself. I think, though, that now that the FTC has weighed in and said, like, Tesla, you must do it, I think that that gives Tesla a good excuse to go, oh, you mean that Tesla that burned down? Oh, it was a salvage one, and we normally would say we wouldn't allow it, but the FTC made us do it, so it's not our fault. I think it shifts the blame over to the FTC if something like that were to happen.
And I do want to point out, salvage Teslas can get their supercharging turned on, but you have to bring the car to Tesla, pay them to inspect it, and have them make sure the car's in tip-top shape.
And it's not a $35 inspection.
No, it's a multi-$1,000 inspection, and that's why I'm sure most people don't do it. But I don't think it's fair to say that like Tesla isn't allowing it. They just want to make sure it's safe.
Yeah, and so it's a kind of a hairy right to repair problem, but it looks like this might just be the solution, and if anything goes wrong, the Tesla has a great scapegoat.
So we've talked before about Chevy's BET truck, or battery electric truck. Their word, not mine.
This truck would be a Silverado with 400 plus miles of range, according to a Chevy sustainability report.
But that's not new. What is new is a CGI video out by Chevy showing the yet-to-be-unveiled truck with rear-wheel steering.
Now, if we take a look at the two circles, we can see that with the rear steering, the circle's radius is about 80% smaller. I actually booted up ImageJ to double check.
A Chevy Silverado's turning radius, depending on trim level, is 23 feet to 28.5 feet, depending on a whole bunch of factors. So if we believe what they're showing us in the video is true, one could expect a 19 to 22.8 foot turning radius. That would put it in the same circles as a Model 3 and a Tahoe on the low end and the tightest turning Silverado on the top end.
Now, the biggest question to me is is that enough? Like, I was expecting it, was going to be like the turning radius of a smart car. I mean, you have rear wheel steering. It seems like you should be able to accomplish a little bit more.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like they gave it a very high angle of attack. So it just seems like you're getting a very muted steering, which is what we also saw in the GMC Hummer.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they might just be taking directly from GMC. This probably would mean that it would have crab walk too. But now, in terms of making a big difference, I haven't been in a truck that has a turning radius of 28 feet. I would assume that sucks. Like, I'm assuming that, like, truck owners know how sucky that is and would be grateful to have a much smaller turning radius.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, more maneuverability on a job site would be fantastic.
Big question to me is, what would the Cybertruck's radius be? Because if you remember, Elon said that the Cybertruck is going to have rear wheel steering.
Yeah, I think Elon's really smart. He's kind of waiting out these other guys as they give away their hand, and then he can come in with a better hand.
Right. I would expect it to be an option for the Cybertruck. I wouldn't expect that you just buy the Cybertruck and it would have rear wheel steering. I would imagine it's a $5,000 or $6,000 or $10,000 upgrade.
Probably.
But I think that for some people, you'd really, really want it.
And I'd want rear steering extreme edition. Yeah, where you can really get that 45-degree angle or something crazy.
Because then you could really turn on a dime.
Right.
Like, I think that because it's like doubling the turning angle of your front. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But if you'd like to talk more about this and the Cybertruck, you should definitely head over to Cybertruck Owners Club. There you'll find news, discussions, and community for Cybertruck enthusiasts and future owners.
And you'll find a 3D configurator allowing you to visualize the Cybertruck in any color, wrap, and logo, both on screen and in augmented reality. All right, so Clean Technic have put out this article that Tesla GigaShanghai's new production rate is 450,000 cars a year.
Elon said, important to bear in mind that production is as fast as the slowest part of 10,000 unique parts in a car.
Kind of interesting that Elon, when given this awesome news story, instead of gloating and going like, yeah, we did it, is just, pointing out just facts. He doesn't gloat, just saying like, yeah, it's tough to do.
So I think I'll take the opportunity to gloat here. They just built this factory. It's a brand new factory. They're almost producing 500,000 cars a year, which how many cars did they make last year with all their factories combined?
Yeah, just under 500,000.
Just under 500,000. So I'm just saying that spells pretty well for next year if they can keep up that rate.
Yeah, it's an incredible accomplishment. And, this is a common media story these days, right? The Tesla sales in China are dropping. So we thought we'd help explain what's really going on. So Kathy Wood and ARK Invest published this chart last week. And so let's take a quick look at it. So in black and in pink, I don't know why they chose these colors. Black is Tesla's local shipments in China, and pink is Tesla's exported shipments from China.
So this is the Shanghai Gigafactory. The cars coming off the lot. Where they go? Are they going to China, which is local, or are they being exported somewhere else?
Right. And to give you some context, they've got NIO there in blue, XPeng there in yellow, and Li Auto in green. So you can kind of see that, of course, Tesla is beating them all. Now, Kathy Wood said, Tesla seems to understand that China would like local champions to dominate electric vehicle sales inside the country, but is pleased that Tesla is exporting from China high-quality, high-end EVs, especially to Europeans, whose standards for fit and finish and design are quite high.
Elon responded, he said, Tesla makes cars for export in first half of quarter and for local market in second half. As publicly disclosed, we are operating under extreme supply chain limitations regarding certain standard automotive chips. And of course, he points out, again, Renesas and Bosch.
So I think it's important to point out a point that gets missed or deliberately missed. Tesla makes cars for export in the first half of the quarter and for local market in the second half. So there's no big secret here. That's how they do it. So for instance, in 1 month, if you see there's low sales, that doesn't mean it was because of demand. It means that because they're focusing on exporting those cars.
So like in July, Tesla delivered 8,998 vehicles to Chinese buyers and exported approximately 23,000 vehicles.
Yeah, that's a total of 32,968 vehicles that were produced at GigaShanghai in July. And I just want to go back to that chart for a second. If you look at the blue, the yellow, and the green, that's for NIO, XPeng, and Li, you see that they're crushing it. Tesla is crushing it. I mean, that's 3 other major Chinese auto manufacturers making EVs, and they're not keeping up with Tesla.
And I mean, most months, Tesla is able to sell at least the same amount of cars in China as them and then export way more cars to other countries. So I think, Kathy Wood really hit the nail on the head when like China is going to be pretty happy to be exporting luxury cars from their country and having their own companies be champions.
To prove that Tesla is indeed shipping Chinese-made Model Ys to places like Europe, well, I guess it's hard to prove because Tesla has been camouflaging the Model Ys so we can't see them. See if you can spot a Model Y here in this photo. This woman's standing in front of a car, but I haven't been able to find it.
Is it that car in a photo?
No, that's not a Model Y. It says plainly on the car, this is not a Model Y. So let's take another look at this other picture here. This is a transport truck. And again, this isn't carrying any Model Ys either.
I think it's the one that looks like a Model Y, the gray one.
Yeah, but it says it's not a Model Y.
These aren't the droids you're looking for.
These aren't the droids we're looking for.
I can't see them.
Now, we've heard that there are 4 ships full of Teslas heading for Europe from China right now. The first one was expected to arrive yesterday. Other Teslas are headed to Hong Kong and South Korea.
And Elon even said, don't look here. I mean, come on. What an awesome company. I've never heard of another company making a joke out of camouflaging the vehicle. Like,
most of the times they take it so seriously and it looks like crap.
Right.
And here you're just saying, not a Model Y, which is super funny. And also gets a little bit more attention. I mean, like, of course you see a camouflage car and like people will take pictures of it and tweet about it. And you know, the car's news reporters are going to go like, oh, I wonder what's underneath that camouflage. But here it's like, the car looks amazing. And now you're also drawing attention to it.
So Tesla has filed with China's Ministry of Industry and Information Technology to make 5 new variants of the Model Y at GigaShanghai.
There are 2 Model Y standard range versions, one with Chinese-made motor and one with an imported motor. So this could point to one variant being made for export to other countries from China and one not being.
Tesla also filed to produce a Model Y long-range rear-wheel drive, Model Y long-range dual motor, and a new Model Y Performance.
So this is pretty exciting for Tesla going forward. They're expanding their lineup of Model Ys in China and I guess also kind of in Europe.
All right, so Oktoberfest is going to be even better this year. Elon announced
GigaBerlin Brandenburg County Fair and Factory Tour on the 9th of October.
He said priority for residents of Brandenburg and Berlin, but also open to general public. So on Thursday, Elon said during a GigaBerlin factory tour with Armin Laschet, who is Germany's Conservative Party candidate to succeed Angela Merkel, he said, we're looking forward to hopefully getting the approval to make the first cars maybe in October if we are fortunate.
So remember that Tesla planned on starting Model Y production in Germany by this July, but of course, German bureaucracy slowed down Tesla.
And I think this latest announcement is designed to send the signal to German authorities that if you slow us down any further, we will call you out on it publicly. I mean, because Elon said it right there with who could be their next chancellor. And it was interesting, the chancellor-elect, or whatever you want to call him, was like, what do you think the future of transportation is? Hydrogen or battery? And Elon was like, really? Do I have to answer this? Kind of embarrassing.
All right, so I have a thought experiment for you. You're in a city center and you want to deliver packages. Is it faster to use a van or a bike?
A van.
Wrong, actually. A new study just found that it is 60% faster to deliver via electric cargo bike than it is by van.
That can't be true. Vans go faster than bikes.
It found that bikes had a higher average speed and dropped off 10 parcels in an hour compared with 6 for vans. The bikes also cut carbon emissions by 90% compared with diesel vans and by a third compared with electric vans.
How can that be?
Parking is a lot easier.
Oh,
You just pull the bike up, ring, ring, and you're right
you're
there.
Like right there at the door.
The packages are right there in front of you. You don't have to open anything or, go searching around. It's right there. You just pick it up and you walk straight in and they go, oh, hello.
Oh, and then traffic. I mean, like a van gets stuck. I was thinking it goes faster, but if it's stuck in traffic, it doesn't. Whereas like bikes can kind of zip around and get through traffic quicker.
Exactly. I think that everyone would prefer to see Mr. McFeely, on an electric cargo bike.
Yeah, I think he rode a bike, didn't he?
Didn't he?
I think he did.
I thought so.
Yeah.
I'm fairly sure.
So CATL, or CATL, is now the world's largest EV battery cell manufacturer, and it appears they will be getting even bigger.
CATL just announced that they are doing a $9 billion private funding round. The new capital will go towards expanding its 3 existing battery factories.
So currently, CATL has plans to produce 230 gigawatt hours annually by the end of this year. That's enough batteries for about 4 million EVs per year.
And now CATL is saying they have plans to grow to 1,200 gigawatt hours by 2025. That would be enough batteries for 20 million EVs.
Yeah, and I just want to talk about a private funding round versus public. So to raise $9 billion privately means that you got a lot of big money that believes in you.
Yes.
Because you're not just going to like individual people like, can you give me $10? You're going to giant corporations and funds and fund managers who are like, I'll write you $1 billion check. Why? Because we believe that you're going to be making tons of money.
It's a really good sign because, yeah, like you're saying, a lot of powerful money is going into these corporations, which means that with the powerful money goes the powerful interests. And with the powerful interests means that we're going to be kind of moving more in that direction. And there's going to be hopefully less money in, say, fossil fuels.
So one of the cool features of the Model X is that huge HEPA air filter. Elon has even touted the bioweapon defense mode, where you can turn on that mode, which is basically faster fan speeds, and get the interior of the Model X to be surgically clean air.
Well, now it appears that the U.S. Fremont-made Model Y has gotten the upgrade as well. Rustam Kocher shared a photo of the new HEPA air filter housing in his new Model Y.
So I do want to point out, it does cost more to replace the filter. These are giant filters. I mean, I just paid Tesla, I think, $220 for just the filter on my Model X, but you do get really clean air. I mean, it dramatically reduces PM 2.5 particles while you're driving.
And lots of other stuff, including smells and stuff like that. I do think that you should, let this be a reminder to maybe get yours replaced after a period of time, because stuff does go through the filter over time.
Yeah, and it's one of those filters that you might kind of forget about because it's so unusual to have such a big filter. And I think it's weird, again, about Tesla, that they don't really tout these things, that it just kind of happens, and then you just have to learn about it by watching our show.
I know that they don't do advertising, but it would be such a great advertisement to have either smoke or smog or just anything gross that you're driving through that you don't want to be smelling. You just turn on the mode and all of a sudden you're smelling something nice.
Yeah.
So on July 16th, SpaceX and Swarm Technologies merged, according to a recent FCC filing. Swarm is a satellite internet company much like SpaceX, but with more of a focus on IoT, or Internet of Things.
Wait, they provide global internet? How is that possible? They'd need a satellite constellation.
They actually have a satellite constellation of about 120 tiny satellites orbiting Earth as we speak. And these things are tiny. They're called Space Bees. They're about the size of a turkey sandwich.
Then why isn't SpaceX making satellites that small? I mean, theirs are the size of a table and they weigh over 500 pounds.
Well, that's because Swarm satellites are low bandwidth, only good for relaying sensor data or GPS locations. You can actually buy a chip from Swarm, and you can put that on a circuit board of an IoT device, and it can communicate with the satellites without needing any kind of stuff because it's so low bandwidth.
I see. So you're not going to be able to play games or watch movies through this internet connection. So why is SpaceX buying them out?
Well, according to the FCC filing, Swarm services will benefit from better capitalization and access to resources available to SpaceX, as well as the synergies associated with the acquisition by a provider of satellite design, manufacture, and launch services. So it sounds like they might combine the integration of Swarm's tech with the power of the Starlink network. I mean, even if they just, glued a Swarm Space Bee to the bottom of each Starlink satellite, Space Bee would have a huge advantage because now they would be getting onto more satellites.
I mean, but I think this could be an acquisition of talent. I mean, SpaceX's limiting factor has always seemed to have been people. And so now you're getting a whole company full of people that know how to make very similar satellites.
Right. I mean, maybe a little bit more simple, but it's not like, oh, it's so easy. You still have to make something that can go up into space and communicate between space and ground and know how to do GPS and stuff like that.
Well, and this is really interesting because, I mean, Swarm's technology was what we call lower bandwidth, but equally very important stuff, right? I mean, if you're a farmer and you want to know about your what's going on in your fields of acres and acres of growing, like you need that data. And so you don't need video of it, but you need like temperature and rain and all these kind of data points, which are smaller to collect, but still important. And so by connecting these two companies together and combining them, you could be creating a lot of value.
Especially with this chip idea. The idea that you could just put a chip in something and suddenly it's able to connect to the internet. Obviously, with what Swarm is currently doing, maybe it's a little bit slower, but maybe either utilizing Starlinks as they exist right now or with slight modification, maybe you could have either a chip that could be in a laptop that could get you like limited internet access or maybe even decent internet access. How cool would that be? You buy a laptop and it just works out of the box with a hotspot, and you pay for data as you pay with Starlink.
And I mean, you could put these chips in like HVAC units that go on the roofs of buildings, and they could immediately start giving you the data that you need without having to worry about Wi-Fi networks and all that kind of stuff, which may be hard on the top of a building.
I mean, talk about like planes and other emergency transponders. If you had a little chip that just went like, bleep, I'm here. Bleep, and people could go, that's where it is. Send the helicopters. Let's go rescue those people.
That's a good point, because I mean, small recreational seacraft, you have to like turn on the system to tell them where you are. And a lot of times that's the problem, is you don't have time, or you got hurt before you could hit the button. If this was something that was always on, because it's so cheap just to keep it on, and it was using so little energy, that could be huge.
And how about planes that just go missing?
Yeah.
Oh, that plane went missing with 300 people on it. Maybe you have a little chip.
All right, so Eli has a very interesting report this week on the Starman Report.
Welcome back to the Starman Report. Today, we are going to talk about why Elon Musk is not going to go to space. Ever since Richard Branson and Jeff Bezos went to suborbit, there's been a lot of speculation that Elon Musk will soon take the trip and join the other space billionaires. The thing is, if he wanted to be the first of that group to space, he could have done that a year ago, and not just to suborbit. So let's look at why Elon hasn't gone to space. For Elon, the mission of his life is to help make life multiplanetary. Let's listen to Elon talk about it here in his recent Starbase interview with Tim Dodd, the everyday astronaut.
The whole time this place has been developed, it's been like down to you're counting every minute and second.
I told the crane operators, what would you do if there's an asteroid heading to this planet in 8 days?
I think if we operate with extreme urgency, then we have a chance of making life multiplanetary. Still just a chance, not for sure. If we don't act with extreme urgency, that chance is probably zero. Yeah, I mean, I'll be long dead before, Mars is self-sustaining, but hopefully the momentum is strong in that direction by the time I die. Hopefully, which probably isn't soon, but no. Wow.
I don't know about you, but for me, that was chilling. Elon is going as fast as he possibly can, pushing the envelope to develop the Starship, which will be the transport vehicle to take humans and cargo to Mars. But that is only one piece of the entire mission. There are so many other technologies that are needed and need to be developed. Here's a simple one: lunar flight suits. NASA is currently handling lunar flight suit development with a series of private contractors for the Artemis moon mission, and even at a $1 billion price tag, news just broke that the suit development will take another 4 years, delaying the moon landing to 2025 at the earliest. Now, what does a spacesuit for the moon have anything to do with Elon going to space? Everything. Elon does not have enough time. Elon is currently 50 years old. He has 20, maybe 30 good years left at best before the impacts of aging and the extreme stress that he constantly puts himself under begins to catch up with him. He is literally racing against the clock of his own mortality. We actually had this following Twitter exchange where he acknowledged this directly. And although SpaceX has made going to space the safest it ever has been, going to space is still risky. If Elon were to have the bad luck of going up on a flight that failed and he died, he knows that our dreams of making it to Mars would likely die with him. And that's a risk that he won't take. He won't go to space or go to Mars until he feels that he has done all that he can to push the causes of sustainable energy and making life multiplanetary as far as he possibly can before he leaves Earth. We actually drew this incredibly powerful scene from the Adventures of Starman graphic novel series, where Starman is greeting Old Man Elon on Mars Base Alpha in the year 2025. One of the things that makes this image so striking is the sad truth of it, that even if things go according to plan, Elon will be a very old man by the time he gets to step on Mars' surface. And that's if he even gets to get there at all. He truly does have a lifelong commitment to this cause, and he certainly isn't going to put his already insanely optimistic goals at risk over a joyride to space. Let me know what you think. Do you think I have it wrong? Do you think Elon will take a tourist ride up to orbit? Thank you guys so much for watching this segment of the Starman Report. I look forward to having you back for more of the most exciting news in space.
Thank you so much, Eli, for that awesome Starman Report. Head over to my Tesla Adventure YouTube channel where you can check out more of what Eli's working on.
All right, it's time for Into the Future. All right, did you hear this? Elon wants to put billboards in space.
Yeah,
It's disgraceful. I mean, what? We can't even have the peaceful sanctuary of the night sky? We have to ruin space too?
Well, relax. It won't be visible from the ground.
I read that it would have a giant pixelated screen on it.
Where the heck did you read that? No, it has a 4-inch square screen. This is a tiny CubeSat that will have a little selfie stick that it'll use to record the screen on itself and then beam that video footage back to Earth.
But I heard it was going to be billboards, so you won't be able to see it from Earth?
I mean, you can barely see the International Space Station from the ground unless it's reflecting sunlight at you. So no, this tiny billboard will be completely invisible aside from the video signals that it'll be sending back to Earth.
Is it for a particular brand?
No, you'll actually be able to buy pixels on the satellite using tokens. The idea is to democratize space. However, unlike a usual billboard that is seen by everyone, this would essentially just be like a picture and video making device, since probably no one would want to just like watch it all the time.
I'm so confused. Everything I read said that he was putting billboards into space, so I just pictured he was going to go down the highway, take a billboard off, and shoot it into space.
Even if you did that, that would be stupid. You wouldn't be able to see it. It'd be so small. The International Space Station is probably like 3 or 4 billboards across. Probably someone's going to correct me and say it's 12.
Okay, so he's not putting a billboard in space. He's putting a little satellite thing that if you want to tune into its video feed, you can.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it'd be cool. Like, MTV, right? One of the things that they would do is, the astronaut put the flag on the moon and then the MTV logo.
Right.
It's a constant trope. I mean, think of Futurama. Think of any video game that takes place in space. You have a thing. It's cool. People recognize that like a satellite up in space with a screen on it is so funny.
Oh, because you also get the background. Like you get the backdrop of Earth.
You're going to have Earth in the background and it's going to, say whatever it says on there. I think that that's kind of really cool.
Can we get our logo on there?
Well, here's the fun part. Once we start getting some images back from it, we can just edit our logo on there. Why bother? I don't know how much it's going to cost. You have to buy Dogecoin, then buy their tokens, and then, figure out how to get your display on there. It sounds pretty complicated. I think we just
fake it
till you make it.
All right, it's time for Going Green, and we are brought to you by EcoWare. Now, you know that we carbon offset the manufacturing, the shipping, and the life cycle of your purchase, and that we plant 10 trees for every purchase, and we help cap a well with the Well Done Foundation. But did you know that EcoWare has much more than just t-shirts?
Like this cool t-shirt?
Yeah, check this
Dishy McFlatface?
You can also get it as other products.
You can get it as a baby onesie,
yeah.
Just in case you name your child Dishy McFlatface, which don't do that. That's horrible. But if you did, you could have a Dishy McFlatface baby onesie.
Come here, Dishy.
Yeah.
All right, it's not just Norway. Now Sweden has done it too. Battery electric vehicle sales have overtaken diesel car sales for the first time in Sweden.
So take a look at this chart of 3-month rolling average car sales in Sweden from 2014 until July 2021. You can see that diesel sales in black steadily declining since their peak of 66% when they were caught lying about diesel cars in 2012. Regular petrol cars are in red, hybrids are in orange, plug-in hybrids in blue, also going way up to 22.7%.
But look at that feisty green line there, popping up to 18.7% recently and overtaking diesel at 17%.
I predict that this green line is going to become unstoppable.
Yep. All right, it's time for Sunspots. And we just read this in the Tesla 2020 Impact Report. A few years ago, Tesla announced that the solar array on the roof of Giga Nevada would grow to be 70 megawatts.
As part of the 2020 Impact Report, we learned 2 things. Tesla now plans for the array to only grow to 24 megawatts. And number 2, we learned that the array today is 3.2 megawatts.
Now, Tesla still claims that this will become the world's largest solar array on a commercial building, but I would have liked to have seen them stick to their earlier goal of 70 megawatts.
I think this tells us a bit about Giga Nevada. Giga Nevada seems to be stuck at about 30% build out. It was supposed to be a much bigger building, and they've never completed building it.
Yeah, I mean, they made this building to make batteries with Panasonic in it, but it seems that Tesla learned about a problem that they have, a constraint, and that constraint seems to be people.
Right. When they built Giga Nevada, you have to keep in mind the only source of talented people is Reno, Nevada, which is not very far away, but it's not particularly close, and it's out in the middle of the desert.
Right.
And I think that you just don't have that many people that you can draw from Reno, Nevada.
Yeah. And I think that that's when Tesla realized, hey, we have to be a little more careful when we place our next factories, put them in places like they just did in Berlin, right? Or in Shanghai, where they're the mecca for a lot of smart engineers and people.
And I think that this is interesting because, back in the day, Ford would go build a facility somewhere out in the middle of nowhere, and people would go move out into the middle of nowhere to work in the factory. And then, cities sprung up around them. And obviously, when those factories went out of business, the local economy suffered. But I think that Tesla tried to do the same thing, building Giga Nevada, and realized that people would not move out into the middle of nowhere to work in their factory in a desert.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to pay a lot more, or you'd have to, import people and find them homes. It's a big deal. So yeah, I think they've kind of put that on hold, and they've gone, you know what, we may not need this to be as big as we once thought.
So smart to choose Shanghai, Berlin, and Austin.
Yep.
Because most of those places are pretty either already very big and full of very talented people, or up and coming, kind of like Austin.
Now, if you want to put solar on your roof, but you got lots of questions, talk to our friends at Energy Pal. They are full of answers. They'll do it all for free. And just tell them that Zach and Jesse sent you. All right, it's time for a video contributor stories. What do we got this week?
We've got Tony in a very interesting kind of forest.
Hey, Zach and Jesse. This is Tony in the central San Joaquin Valley, reporting to you live from a hemp forest. Now, I call this a hemp forest because when you plant hemp like this at extreme density, it really resembles a bamboo forest. And as far as I know, this is the first hemp forest of its kind that's been planted here in the state of California since hemp was re-legalized in 2018. Most farmers who are growing hemp are using it to produce CBD or terpenes or other medicinal compounds, and it looks very different from this. When you grow hemp like this, you are optimizing for the production of this. This is the stem of the hemp plant. And the stem of the hemp plant has two important resources that it produces. There's the outer bast fiber, which is basically the skin of this, and that's been used to make textiles. It's one of the strongest natural fibers on earth. You can use it to make rope. It was the most used natural fiber in the age of sail. So all the sailing ships had their sails and cordage made out of the hemp bast fiber. And then the inner part of this stem, which is the woody herds, can be used to make thousands of different products. It's one of the best sources of cellulose you can get from a plant. So you can use it to make all kinds of fillers for bioplastics. You can pulp it into paper. You can make cardboard for packing boxes. And it can also be used for making dimensional lumber, press board, plywood, insulation materials when you mix it with lime, a product called hempcrete. And this is also part of the reason why I call this a hemp forest, because anything that you could make out of a forest of trees can be made out of the stems of this plant. And this field is only 114 days old, yet these plants are 12 feet tall. They're growing about 9 inches a week. We're having a field day on July 31st. I think they'll be 15 feet tall by then. And these plants are going to keep growing until late August, which is when we're going to cut them for harvest. And this is really exciting because it represents a way to sequester carbon. We're anticipating that the total carbon content of this stem, or CO2 content equivalent, is about 10 tons per acre by the time we're done. So the farmers can grow the hemp to capture the carbon, and it's on the processors, the supply chain, and manufacturers to sequester it by transforming this raw material into durable goods like construction materials, or rigid plastics, long-term use plastics. Like one of the major things that hemp is used for in Europe is to make door panels for cars. Now you know.
Thank you, Tony. That is so exciting. I didn't know it grew that fast.
I didn't know either. I thought it was only bamboo. I thought that was the only thing that grew that fast.
Yeah, this is really cool to hear about. All right, it's time for our Patreon bonus stories. And if you want to head on over to patreon.com/nowyouknow, support us for as little as $1 a month. You're going to get to hear about what we got coming up this week. stories about the Cadillac Lyric, how California is leading the way again on solar and battery storage. Nicola gets a grant, and also our Investor Club bonus story.
So if you want to check out the Patreon bonus stories, you can head over to Patreon. Support us for as little as $1 a month. You can check those out. But if you want to watch the Investor Club bonus stories, it's a little bit more. Head over to Patreon, and you also get access to our amazing Slack group full of 1,600 investors, all talking about electric vehicles. Lots of exciting stuff over there.
Yeah.
So go check that out. We'll see you after the Patreon bonus stories.
All right, we're back from the Patreon bonus stories. It's time for the shout-outs. Who do we got this week?
We've got Joseph,
Daniel Lavoie,
Skyhawk,
Robert Johnson,
Alan Johnson,
James S. Reeder,
M. Den,
A.T.,
Mike Webster,
Roland Pentilla,
Tom McDonald,
Darius Lemonascus,
Marijin Kolink,
Rule Rabon,
Michael Moss,
Mark Adams,
David Medina,
George Butler,
Michael Grossi,
Grant Daly,
Stephen A. Smith,
Peter Nittman,
Rita Campbell,
and Daniel Jason.
Thank you so much for supporting this channel. We can't do it without you.
All right, it's time for Elon's Tweets of the Week, and Alex says, Porsche CEO's Bloom says the concept of the 911 doesn't allow for a pure electric car because we have the engine in the rear, and if the weight of the battery were moved to the rear, you couldn't drive the car. For this decade, it's very clear to me that the 911 will be a car with an ICE.
And Elon put 2 exclamation points because that doesn't... What? Well, if the batteries are in the back, you can't drive forward. What? That's how batteries work.
Eric X tweeted out the new Starship orbital refueling method, or STORM, as described by Elon.
Wait, it doesn't say storm there.
That's the new acronym that I'm coming up with. STORM.
Starship orbital refueling method. Storm. Wow. That's now they have to.
They have to use it. Michael Sheets says NASA's Inspector General says delays in spacesuit development are another factor making a 2024 astronaut moon landing impossible. With $420 million spent and another $625 million expected, suits won't be ready for flight until April 25 at the earliest.
He went on to say there are 27 different companies supplying the components for NASA's next generation spacesuits, IG notes.
And Elon said SpaceX could do it if need be, or seems like too many cooks in the kitchen.
Too many cooks. Kind of does. I mean,
yeah.
It's a suit.
But that's how government contracts work. It's like, oh, great, we can milk this for another few years.
Wow.
Tom Mueller said, I think we developed Falcon 9 and Cargo Dragon for less than $1 billion.
Elon said, yeah.
Christian Davenport said Blue Origin, just not giving up on the HLS program, says the GAO's decision highlights issues that will prevent the U.S. from landing on the moon, and says it's concerned about SpaceX needing 16 launches with limited flight readiness reviews to get Starship to the moon.
Elon said 16 flights is extremely unlikely. Starship payload to orbit is roughly 150 tons, so max of 8 to fill the 1,200-ton tanks of Lunar Starship. Without flaps and heat shields, Starship is much lighter. Lunar landing legs don't add much at 1/6 gravity, may only need 1/2 full, i.e. 4 tanker flights.
He went on to say, however, even if it were 16 flights with docking, this is not a problem. SpaceX did more than 16 orbital flights in the first half of 2021 and has docked with station much harder than docking with our own ship over 20 times. Note, should be refill, not refuel. 78% of propellant is liquid oxygen. Only about 22% is fuel.
And Christian Davenport said, a Blue Origin spokesperson I spoke to today left open the possibility of taking the HLS fight to the Court of Federal Claims. And Bob Smith said in a statement to the Post that BO, Blue Origin is BO, is hopeful that NASA will take advantage of our offer to waive $2 billion in development fees.
Elon said, somehow this wasn't convincing? Everything SpaceX says, if Blue Origin spent as much time on actual rocket science as they do protesting NASA's HLS decision, New Glenn would have reached orbit, New Armstrong would be operational, and Jeff's O'Neill colony in space idea would be real.
Elon said, exactly. And then Elon went on to say, if lobbying and lawyers could get you to orbit, Bezos would be on Pluto right now, which is a really good tweet.
Teslarati tweeted out, Rivian's $5 billion U.S. plant has Fort Worth, Texas as a frontrunner.
Elon said, I'd recommend they get their first plant working. It's insanely difficult to reach volume production at affordable unit cost.
Alex said most problems in a production plant are found out during production and not beforehand. You can't simulate a huge factory where everything has to work together seamlessly like in a complex gearbox. Planning a new plant without that experience isn't smart, it's stupid.
Elon said, yup. So he just called Rivian stupid.
Cosmic Perspective said Super Heavy Booster 4 rolled back to the production site this morning. Shots like this always give me goosebumps.
Elon said booster and ship will return to orbital launch pad on Monday, winds allowing. Just finishing off some small plumbing and wiring, which is easier in high bay.
Jeff said the inside of a hydrogen car versus the inside of a Tesla, which looks safer to you?
Elon said the staying power of a bad idea is astonishing.
And James Stevenson tweeted out this video from Jeff Bezos.
In 1961 and 1962, they were moving fast. They were, from the time of that Rice speech, I don't know the exact, but I'm thinking probably they were letting contracts, actually finished contracts within a year of that Rice speech. Unbelievable. I know that the Grumman, there were 9 competitors for the lunar lander, and Grumman won. The RFP was released, and then it was awarded to Grumman 6 months later. Today, there would be, 3 protests, and the losers would sue the federal government because they didn't win.
Okay, this is a place that's dedicated to public service, okay? So we're not going to.
And so that it's very interesting. But the thing that slows things down is procurement. It's become the bigger bottleneck than the technology, which I know for a fact.
And Elon tweeted, "Irony man."
Eric X said, Mechazilla, less than 1 hour turnaround, and this is his video of how that would work.
Elon said, pretty close. Booster and arms will move faster. Quick disconnect arm will steady booster for ship mate.
And ship will be caught by Mechazilla 2. As with booster, no landing legs. Those are only needed for the moon and Mars until there's local infrastructure. And C3LT said, so Mars will eventually get its own Mechazilla? Would there be any value in eventually building super heavy boosters on Mars as a launch platform for outer solar system missions?
Elon said yes on both counts. That would be a great outcome for civilization. So not only is he thinking about building a tower that can catch a giant rocket and a smaller rocket on it and then stacking them together, he wants to build the same thing on Mars.
Why not? Yeah.
Because it's hard, but that never stopped him. Yeah.
Misinformation, which is Grimes, said death is a choice and you will never catch me making it.
Elon said, I will welcome death when it comes.
And then Grimes went on to say, I don't. Please make me a cyborg body.
And then Linus replied to Elon. He said, even if it's not on Mars?
And Elon said, preferably on Mars. Then Tesla Adri said, that's so embarrassing. German Chancellor candidate Armin Laschet asked Elon, what is the future of cars, hydrogen or electric? How can someone who still thinks hydrogen is a viable option be possibly elected? I'm so embarrassed by this. Sorry, Elon. And then BPM said, Germany to invest around $10 billion in hydrogen projects. The German Transport Minister Andreas Schur said he wanted his country to become a leading hydrogen producer in Europe and beyond, saying that greener mobility concepts could be accelerated that way.
Elon said no amount of money can defy physics, as Jeffrey Bezos is amply demonstrating.
Nice.
Woo!
Another dig.
Zing! I mean, what a... Woo!
Yeah. Everything SpaceX says Blue Origin, launched from a spaceport that does not exist. SpaceX.
Elon said Pixar didn't have... Oh.
Owen Spark says, Elon, you should change your bio to immensely complex and high risk.
Elon said, seriously.
SpexCast said, when will Starship production become cost effective? Booster 20, Booster 200?
Elon said Starship will be crushingly cost-effective for Earth orbit or moon missions as soon as its operational and rapid reuse is happening. Mars is a lot harder because Earth and Mars only align every 26 months, so ship reuse is limited to roughly a dozen times over 25 to 30-year life of ship. Just in case you don't know, Elon wants to build a huge fleet of Starships because you need to launch a lot of ships at the same time,
like 1,000
during those 26-month windows.
Samson says, so innovation to streamline efficiency must go a long way. The gigapresses are amazing, with all models eventually having its own cast machine to press full chassis.
Elon said all models do make use of aluminum casting, but new Y will be most advanced, with 2/3 of the body being cast.
And Rahul says, where's our old Elon? Missing your memes.
Elon said, sorry, it's been pretty intense lately.
I think he was on vacation, wasn't he?
He just went on vacation recently. It seemed like he went to Germany and Italy. It seems like maybe he was taking some time off because he really deserves it.
This next tweet we're putting in our Patreon bonus stories because we can't play the video. You're definitely going to want to check this out. And Elon said, mad respect for the makers. And then Alex says, I wish Elon would first principle Elon a little. Set aside a little time every day, Elon, to take care of yourself. Like 30 minutes of stretching or yoga a day would provide many short and long-term benefits. Love you, bro.
And then Elon said, shower thoughts work best for me.
Elon, we're talking
That's not
about...
what we're talking about,
No, Elon, you need some stretching.
You're in back pain.
Yeah.
It's so obvious to anyone who's ever had back pain.
We should do a video telling him how to stretch his back.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Austin says, history and future all in one image. Starship really has come a long way.
Elon says, we're working on enabling public access to our restaurant.
Austin Tesla Club says, great news. A star-based restaurant with great food, bathrooms, air conditioning, and supercharging will be a huge hit.
Elon said, we will make it happen.
Yes.
This is Tesla's first Supercharger restaurant combo, and each of the restaurants has a SpaceX thing out in front of it. Oh, yes.
Yes.
That would be killer.
Everything Artemis said, NASA has started SpaceX lunar lander payments. Hopefully, and I trust the SpaceX team will work fast. Elon, do you expect to have lunar Starship ready to land humans in 2024 despite other delays?
Elon said probably sooner.
Yeah, so NASA has paid its first $300 million payment on July 30th.
Nice.
And Elon said first orbital stack of Starship should be ready for flight in a few weeks, pending only regulatory approval.
Tyler Gray says, is that a few weeks in Elon time or real time? Elon said real time.
And then Nick said, hey, Elon, when full self-driving beta 9.2? I thought it was supposed to drop last night.
And Elon said some unexpected last-minute issues should go out in next day or two.
All right, so we had a poll. Why are the Model 3 and Y deliveries backed up until January?
And it's just neck and neck. High demand, supply chain delays. Seems like more people are saying supply chain delays. A couple people are saying something else, although a lot of people just thought it was both.
All right, it's time for Community Mail Time. I want to remind you guys to send your stories into hello@nowyouknowchannel.com. We love your pictures and stuff. And Eric's brother, who works in Lower Manhattan, spotted a Revel cab in New York City last week. Remember we said they weren't going to be allowed, and now they are. So it's good to see them in operation.
Looks good in that color.
So, Jesse, you wanted more colorful Teslas, huh?
Yeah.
All right. Well, from Panu, a purple Model 3 they spotted in Bremerton, Washington.
Nice.
You want more purple?
Yes.
Because Kevin sent us these photos from the NDEW 2019 event in Madison, Wisconsin.
Beautiful.
You know,
multi-sized,
multi-generational too.
That's great.
Or how about this olive drab military green Model 3 sent in by Robert?
Nice.
Or maybe this metallic blue one spotted in San Bernardino, California by Sean.
Woo.
Like that?
Yeah.
Or perhaps you prefer this blue one. Christopher sent along a photo of his Model 3 that he had wrapped in matte blue Rivera in San Juan, Puerto Rico.
That looks like the Rivian color. Looks a little bit better. It's a little bit better.
Or how about a purple-green Model 3? Arnie spotted this car named Tekla in Sweden. Or this green one from Victor, who spotted it in a local parking garage. Now, is that Germany? I think Ausfahrt means exit in German, so I think this is Germany.
It looks like something I'd play in a video game.
Yeah, right?
It's like that green color.
All right, how about this matte blue Model S that Dom spotted at the Vincenca Supercharger in Italy? Or this green one spotted in Bern at the Formula E racing event?
Wow. These are all great.
Or how about every color? Gaines and Mary sent us this photo of their rainbow black Starlight Model Y.
Nice. It's so
okay, did you get enough of your damn colors there?
Awesome.
All right. Greg sent us this photo of a sign outside the parking garage at his local shopping mall near Walnut Creek, California. Kind of says it all, doesn't it?
Wow. Oh, God. Okay.
Yeah.
Yikes.
So now we got to put up warning signs because of regular old cars. Or we could just drive electric cars. All right, it's time for Supercharger reviews. You should go out into the world and find us some Superchargers. Put them on our website so that the world can see them, because we got a map right here at nowyouknowchannel.com slash Supercharger reviews. So let's see what we got this week.
Hey, Zach and Jesse. I'm at the Heather Brown Supercharger in New South Wales, north of Sydney, Australia. Charging my made in China Model 3 as we speak. There's the Model X, and there was another Model 3 charging next to it. It's disappeared. This Supercharger has 5, 6 stalls. We seem to be limited to 130 kilowatts of charging here in most superchargers in Australia, and I got up to 170 kilowatts. Nearby, there is a restaurant motel behind us, but unfortunately the restaurant's closed due to COVID. But on the other side, right behind me over here, there is a traditional gas station, as you Americans would call it. We'd call it a petrol station. Its shop is open for business, so there is a toilet, snacks, lunch, enough food to have a reasonable break, but nothing too special. And for that reason, I would rate this Supercharger about 6 out of 10.
Hi, Zach and Jesse. This is John. I'm in Santa Isabel, California, in the mountains east of San Diego at the new Supercharger. It's a 250 kilowatt chargers. They've got 8 stalls here. I'm the only one here right now. And it's at the intersection of highways 79 and 78. We're up in apple country where they make lots of pies. And you see the Julian Pie Company over there. There's Don's Market over here, which has got restrooms, and Dudley's Bakery over there. Anyway, this is a nice spot here in the mountains, and I would give it an 8 out of 10. Now you know.
Hi, Zach and Jesse. Mike here at the 4-stall 150 kilowatt Supercharger in Superior, Montana. This Supercharger is usually not very busy. Whenever we stopped by here, there was maybe one car here, but most of the time you're the only one here. Even though it's conveniently located right off the interstate at this Conoco gas station here. And right across the street there is a restaurant, gift shop and casino, the Durangos. Right over this way we have the Big Sky Motel, and then over that way behind this red building over there, which is the courthouse, behind it on the other side of the street there is a grocery store. You can also walk down that street if you want to go down to the river. If you're heading westbound on I-90, right here in front of us, this is the off-ramp, so you just make a right and come right in here to get to the Supercharger. If you're heading eastbound, you're a little further over on the other side. You will have to make a left, go onto the interstate, make a right to come onto this road, and then make a right to come right in here to the Supercharger here. So we've been here a few times charging. There's nothing super exciting here, but it's a convenient charging stop. You can get what you need here at the convenience store in the gas station, go to the bathroom. If you're hungry, there's the restaurant across the street. It's a small, neat little town, so you can walk around a little bit and enjoy the small town here. Altogether, I would rate this about a 6 out of 10. Now you know.
Hi, Zach and Jesse. I'm at the 6-stall Tesla Supercharger location in Kisarazu, Chiba Prefecture, Japan. You can find these Superchargers in a parking lot with this sign advertising a nearby cafe that's inside this unusually decorated building. Across the road from these Superchargers is a convenience store. Something kind of unique is this small Shinto shrine right next to the chargers, making this location one where you can eat, pray, and then love your Tesla while charging. 6 stalls is nice, but there aren't so many eating options nearby, so I give it an 8 out of 10. On a side note, there's a racetrack around 20 minutes from here called Soregawara Forest Raceway. Usually gas-powered bikes and cars race here, but if you're lucky, you may be able to see Nissan Leafs and Teslas tearing up the track alongside them.
Now you know.
Woo!
Love 'em.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
There were only 2 new Superchargers this week.
Yeah, but a lot of permitted in construction. So, I mean, we're going to see them down the road. What do we got for this week?
Number 55 in Texas, the 16-stall version 3 in Kyle, Texas.
Number 234 in California. Number 1109 in the USA. Number 2892 in the world is the 8-stall in Fresno, North Blackstone Ave, California. All right, it's time for the Patreon giveaway. To get into this big barrel of fun, you join us on Patreon. The more you support us, the more chance you have to win. We're giving away a $30 gift card to EcoWear, so you can get a cool Dishy McFlatface t-shirt if you want, or those cool baby onesies, or basically, I mean, we sell so many different cool items. And who's our winner this week?
The winner is Vernon Coughlin.
Congratulations, Vernon.
we're going to be sending you a $30 gift card to ecoware.us. If you would like to win, sign up on Patreon. The more you support, the more you have a chance to win.
That's right. And you're going to take a little break.
Yes, next week I'm going to be out. Steve Vaughn is going to be back in, filling in for me. I really appreciate it. I'm going to be in California. If you want, you can hit me up on Twitter at jcatmcfly is my Twitter handle. I don't know how to use Twitter. I'm very, 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 very intimidated by it. So don't be expecting me to be tweeting out too much.
I think you should tweet out during your vacation. Some pictures so I can follow you. It's very social media.
Listen,
Yeah,
I have a Facebook. I haven't posted on Facebook in like 12 years.
I know, but people want to know about your vacation. They want to know what you see.
I don't want them to know. So, feel free to message me on Twitter. I think I have it enabled so anyone can just send me a message. I don't have to follow you or anything.
I just think a couple pictures would be fun.
Look, I already have
when
a
you're sitting in the shade one day, and I don't know, but on your vacation, you're sitting in the shade.
Got it packed. It's jam packed.
Wow, you're not gonna have any time. Huh?
No, we'll have time.
You gonna get down to Aptera while you're there?
Oh, I didn't make any plans. I'll call him up when I'm in San Diego.
Yeah, just drop in. Yeah. Just bring a wrench.
Just knock on the door.
I'm ready to help.
Hey, hello.
Where's my Aptera?
I'll wear a mask. All right. Hey, thank you so much for watching the show. If you didn't watch it, there wouldn't be any reason for us to make it. So you watching it really makes a big difference. If you haven't hit the like button yet, I don't know. What are you
waiting for?
What are we up to, by the way? Why don't you comment down below as well? Because that also helps the show. I know that's dumb and it's stupid, dumb stuff that YouTube makes you do in order for us to do well. But that's the world that we live in.
That's
so
right. That's AI for you.
That's the world of AI for you. So you have to show engagement because AI isn't complex enough to realize that you watched a show for an hour. Couldn't figure that one out. Maybe this was just some long sleep thing that you were doing in the middle of the day on a Monday. I don't know. But apparently you have to hit the like button. You have to comment. You have to hit the subscribe button for anything to work on this platform. It is the best platform, but it doesn't mean that it's perfect.
You gonna bring me back a gift? Like a t-shirt or something? Maybe?
No, I went to Aptera and all I got you was this crappy t-shirt. Yeah.
All right, we'll see you next week, guys.
Right. Now you know.